All right, so you know how much we all value getting right to the heart of things. No one wants to wade through pages and pages of reports just to figure out what's actually going on.
Absolutely. People are busy. They want the key takeaways, what really matters.
Exactly. We respect your time. So that's precisely what we're doing today, zeroing in on a pretty fascinating development coming out of India. We're talking about something that could really signal a major shift in how a very important community is supported.
Right. It's a big deal, and it all revolves around the launch of this thing called the Pride Fund. And I think what's going to really catch your attention is that it's actually the very first dedicated philanthropy fund in India, specifically for the LGBTQIA plus community.
Yeah, when I saw that it was a first for the entire country, I mean, wow, that really struck me. To dive into this, we've pulled some really crucial information from the press release that announced this whole thing, and also from a report that Dasra put together called Against All Odds, Advancing Equity for India's LGBTQIA plus communities. Really interesting stuff.
I thought it was a great report, very comprehensive.
Totally. So what we really want to do today is unpack this whole thing,
Mhm.
figure out why this fund is so important, who's behind it, and what kind of impact it's looking to have for India's LGBTQIA plus community. I mean, it's honestly kind of hard to believe that this is the first dedicated fund of its kind there.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable when you think about it, especially considering that India has something like 140 million people who identify as LGBTQIA plus plus. So, it immediately begs the question, what has the funding situation actually looked like for this huge part of the population?
Yeah, right. So, I mean, the sources we've got here paint a pretty stark picture. And it's a little bit, well, honestly, it's a bit concerning. Even with this massive LGBTQI plus population, it turns out that only one, literally just one of India's top 50 philanthropic donors is specifically giving to LGBTQIA plus organizations.
Wow, just one.
Yeah, just one. Crazy, right? And get this, the contributions from those corporate social responsibility initiatives, the CSR stuff,
Mhm.
practically non-existent for this area.
It really puts it in perspective. It shows you how much need there really is. And when we look at the bigger picture, globally, there's actually been this big increase in efforts to support LGBTQIA plus communities,
Mm.
from a philanthropic standpoint. But India has been pretty much absent from that trend.
It's like they're being left out,
Right.
even as the rest of the world is starting to pay more attention. And this funding gap, it's not just some abstract concept. The Dasra report really drives this point home. They highlight how much this lack of funding impacts the actual organizations on the ground, the non-governmental organizations and the civil society groups that are working so hard. These are the people, out there dealing with so much prejudice, trying to give essential support.
Yeah, and they're fighting an uphill battle already. I mean, those organizations are absolutely vital. They provide healthcare, they help people find livelihoods, they fight for legal justice, and just basic dignity. So without funding, their jobs become almost impossible.
It's got to be incredibly difficult. So this is where the Pride Fund comes in. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about, like, the what of it all. What is this fund actually trying to accomplish? What's the big idea?
So the main thing is tackling that funding gap we were just talking about. They're setting out to create this consistent, organized system of what they call patient philanthropy for organizations that work with the LGBTQIA plus community all across India.
Patient philanthropy, that's an interesting way to put it. What does that actually mean in this context?
Well, it suggests they're thinking long term, not just quick grants, but building something that lasts, right? It acknowledges that systemic change needs time, it needs consistent effort. Ultimately, it's about empowering lasting improvements in the lives of LGBTQIA plus people all over India. And we have to give a shout out to the partners who are making this happen. Dasra, who's got tons of experience with Indian philanthropy, and the Godrej DEI Lab, which is part of the Godrej Industries Group. They're all about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
It sounds like a really solid foundation. So let's talk about the people and organizations who actually made this happen. Who are the big players driving the Pride Fund?
Okay, so we've got the Godrej Industries Group, obviously a big name in India. And then Radhika Piramal, she's got a big leadership role at VIP Industries and is a trustee with Dasra UK. And we can't forget the Keshav Suri Foundation. And of course, they're all working super closely with Dasra.
It's pretty impressive, that lineup. They must feel really strongly about this. What have they said about why they felt the Pride Fund was so crucial?
Well, Parmashahani, he's the head of the Godrej DEI lab, put it in a really powerful way. He called it a historic milestone, basically the first of its kind in India, and I love this part, created by queer community members for the community. The whole goal is to break down those systemic barriers that have always held LGBTQIA plus people back. And he brought this statistic that really stuck with me. Only about 27% of the NGOs working with the LGBTQIA plus community actually have a national presence. So this fund is specifically geared towards helping them expand their reach, making a bigger impact.
I see. So they're not just getting money, they're getting the support they need to actually make a difference on a national scale.
Exactly. And Radhika Piramal, she really hammered home the urgency of this. She pointed out that the international aid that usually supports these causes is drying up. So she's basically issuing a call to action for Indian corporations and foundations to step up and fill the gap. It's about making sure those NGOs that are providing crucial services, things like safety, legal aid, healthcare, and just helping people live with dignity, that they get the support they desperately need.
So it's about India taking responsibility, stepping up for their own people. What about Keshav Suri? How does he see the Pride Fund?
Oh, he's got a really strong vision for it. He actually called the launch of the Pride Fund a revolution, like it's going to change everything about how India invests in its LGBTQIA plus citizens. He's really big on the collaboration aspect, and he made this really powerful statement. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're not charity. He says they're a necessity. It's not about being nice, it's about what a society needs to thrive. And he believes that this fund is the key to making sure organizations led by and for the queer community finally have access to the resources they should have had all along.
Wow. So there's this real sense of purpose behind it, a shared mission. Okay, so let's get practical for a minute. How is the Pride Fund actually going to work? How are they going to get those resources to the people on the ground?
So the main mechanism they're using is grants. They're going to give these grants to non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations, the ones who are actually out there tackling those big challenges, making healthcare accessible, creating opportunities for livelihoods, fighting for legal justice, and just ensuring the dignity of the LGBTQIA plus community.
So basically, they're directly supporting the work that's already happening, making it possible for them to do even more.
Exactly. The idea is that by giving them this financial backing, these organizations can do more, they can reach more people, they can have a more lasting impact, and ultimately they can help build a more inclusive and equitable future for LGBTQIA plus people across all of India.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned that Dasra report earlier, Against All Odds. How does that research play into the Pride Fund?
Oh, it's crucial, really. The report provides so much context. It's data-driven. It helps us understand the reality on the ground. It's a deep dive into the specific obstacles that LGBTQIA plus organizations are up against in India. But it's not just about identifying problems. It also offers solutions, recommendations. And it really emphasizes the importance of creating strategies in partnership with the community itself.
I like that. So it's not just some outside group coming in and saying, here's what you need. It's about listening to the people who are actually living it.
Exactly. It's about respect and understanding. And Neera Nundy, one of the co-founders and partners at Dasra, she brought up this really striking point from the report. It turns out that while India has something like 18% of the entire world's population, they get less than 1% of the global funding for LGBTQIA plus causes. It's a huge disparity.
Less than 1% for nearly a fifth of the world's population? That's mind-blowing. It really puts that funding gap in perspective.
It does, doesn't it? And Neera Nundy stressed that the Pride Fund is specifically designed to fix that imbalance. It's about supporting those organizations led by queer people, the ones that are already driving change at the grassroots level. It's about empowering them to create a more sustainable future for their community.
Okay, so stepping back and looking at the big picture, what's the ultimate goal for the Pride Fund? What kind of transformation are they hoping to see?
The big vision is real, lasting, transformative change for the whole LGBTQIA plus community in India. And it's not about Band-Aid solutions. It's about deep, systemic change that takes time and commitment.
A long-term commitment to equality.
Exactly. And they're not just throwing money around, they're being strategic about it. The focus is on supporting solutions that have a real chance of making a big impact and making sure that the needs of everyone in the LGBTQIA plus community, even the most marginalized, are addressed. The goal is for the Pride Fund to create a whole new path towards true inclusion in India.
It's an ambitious goal, but it sounds like they're on the right track. Now, before we wrap up, let's give our listeners a little more context on the main players here. We talked about the Godrej DEI Lab and the Godrej Industries Group. Can you give us a quick rundown of each?
Sure. So the Godrej DEI Lab is fairly new. It was established in 2023. It's a part of the Godrej Industries Group, and their mission is to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, both within the company and in the broader Indian corporate world. Parmesh Shahani is the one leading the charge there.
And the Godrej Industries Group, what's their deal?
Oh, they're a massive player in the Indian economy. They've been around forever, like since 1897. They're this huge conglomerate, global presence. They serve over 1 billion consumers. They're involved in all sorts of stuff, consumer goods, real estate, agriculture, financial services, you name it. They've always been about promoting economic independence for India, and they've got a really strong focus on sustainability and putting people first. You've probably heard of some of their companies: Godrej Consumer Products, Godrej's Properties, Godrej Agravit, Godrej Industries Chemicals, Godrej Financial Services, and Godrej Chemicals.
Wow, yeah, I've definitely heard of some of those. It's a big deal that a company of that size is getting behind this initiative. It really shows how important the Pride Fund is.
Right. It shows that corporate India is starting to wake up to the importance of LGBTQIA plus inclusion, both in business and in society.
So if you had to sum it all up, what would you say is the key takeaway here with the Pride Fund?
I think it's a huge step forward. The launch of the Pride Fund is a major turning point in addressing this lack of funding that's been plaguing LGBTQIA plus organizations in India. It shows what's possible when important people and organizations come together and say, this matters, we need to change this.
And the goal is to create real lasting change, starting at the grassroots level and building a more inclusive and equitable society for everyone, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity.
Exactly. It's a bold move, and it has the potential to make a huge difference in the lives of so many people.
As you think about all this, consider what this kind of dedicated effort can do. Think about how philanthropic initiatives like the Pride Fund can actually shift societal norms and make life better for marginalized communities. What other areas could benefit from this kind of focused, collaborative funding? It really makes you think about how powerful strategic investment can be in creating real progress.